Good afternoon. I'm the proud father of Alan Blueford, the 18-year-old young man that was murdered by Oakland police officer. Alan and two of his friends were in the Bay Area walking down the street. They had committed no crime. They were just walking to the store. That day it was a Cinco de Mayo party. It was also the Mayweather fight that day. So Alan had left our home to go to the Bay Area to watch the fight with his cousins and mess with some girls, what they told me. So about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, Alan was walking to the store, him and two of his buddies. Two police officers pulled up on my son, guns drawn, lights out, for no reason at all. These young men hadn't done anything. Let me back it up just a little. My son Alan had went to his prom the week before. He was to graduate in 11 days from Skyline High School, which we received his report card, his last report card. He received 2 A's and 2 C's, and he would have walked across the stage within 11 days of his murder. Like I said, Alan and his two friends, they called themselves cousins, were walking down the street doing nothing. The police officer pulled up on him, lights off, gun drawn, grabbed one of the young men, handcuffed him, walked him to the side, gave him kind of rough treatment or whatever. At this point, Alan gets scared and runs. This officer chased Alan 5 city blocks through the city of Oakland, around the corners, 5 city blocks. And at this point, Alan falls to the ground, gets to a fence and falls. When he falls, this officer stands over my son, shoots him 3 times in his chest, while my son is saying, "I didn't do anything." After he was murdered, there's one witness said, my son said, "Why did you shoot me?" This Masso is a rogue police officer. Masso was charged in New York with a police brutality criminal lawsuit, federal lawsuit, which he left before coming to Oakland. This happened in New York. He was charged with macing a guy, kicking him in the head, tasering him. At one point, the guy almost passed away. And Masso was identified as the officer who wouldn't let the guy get medical attention, as well as one of the officers who beat him. So when this federal lawsuit was charged in New York, Masso left New York and came to the Bay Area, where he was eventually hired by Oakland Police Department. Masso was also a military officer. He went to the Iraq War. He was the MP, a military police officer that had served in the war in Iraq. This officer says my son pointed a gun at him and he scared him to death, so he had to kill him. There was a gun found at the scene 25 to 30 feet from my son with no fingerprints or DNA from my son. And it's just amazing that this kind of thing could happen. And well, he said he chased my son a mile and he blamed my son for his murder. He's scared to death, and my son's on his back laying on the ground. He's standing over him and murders him, and he blames my son for this. It's called justifiable homicide, as the DA report. And there's 13 witnesses there who said my son never had a gun, who's also stating that my son said he didn't do anything at the point when he was shot. So this has been real hard on us. This happened May the 6th of this year. My son passed away at 12/20, which is his birthday. They announced him dead at 12/20, and he was born on 12/20. So we're fighting for Alan's life. Alan was a great kid. We were involved parents. We picked him up from school. We lived like 25 miles from the school, so we picked him up daily and dropped him off. He also worked at Skyline. He was there an hour early. He worked for the school. So, you know, my son didn't deserve to be murdered out there. This guy shot himself, is what I forgot to tell you. This guy shot himself in the foot. We don't know if he shot himself and thought my son shot him and murdered my son, or he shot himself to cover up this murder. But one thing we do know, that the first officer arrived on the scene, Masso said, "I swear I thought he had a gun." And the next few words he said is, "I've been shot," insinuating that my son shot him. But After all the reports come through, we find out that there's no gunshot residue on my son's hands nowhere. The officer shot himself in the foot. And it's just a whole lot of questions need to be answered. And this is a military guy, like I said. He's a Iraqi war. He said he was scared to death, but this guy is willing to chase these kids down 12 o'clock at night, around corners, through alleys, and to stand over him and murder him. But he's scared to death for his life, and he had to murder my son, is what he said. They didn't release no reports for a while, and we know why. The coroner's report did show that my son was laying on the ground. Bullet wounds are going upward, so we know the police weren't on his back. So my son was on the ground, and all the witnesses said my son was stood over and murdered, and they thought it was wrong. So we're here, we're seeking justice for my son, and we're not going to stop until we get it. God bless. Thank you.